If there's one thing Jake Paul is good at, it's not boxing. It's his ability to play the entire world. Congratulations to Jon Jones. Let's talk about it. Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to episode 29. Let's have a conversation. Today, we're only talking about Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic and Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. There's nothing else to discuss. There's nothing else to waste my brain juices on. There's nothing to bring out my dumb, casual brain juices. There's just nothing. There's nothing in the news that is deserving of my time on this episode except these two fights. Big weekend, as most of you fight fans know. UFC 309, Madison Square Garden. Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic, the greatest of all time versus the greatest heavyweight of all time. Listen, that card delivered. That card really delivered, but I'm going to focus on just the fight between Jon Jones and Stipe. Guys, there's no excuses. Stipe had his ass handed to him. Let's not talk about he's old. No. Stipe went into that fight extremely confident, in one of the best shapes of his life. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna give him the excuse for being old. On the same card, you have people like Jim Miller, and a veteran in the sport, who went in there and did his thing. So there's no excuses for Stipe. He had enough time to train. Even with Jon's injury, he had much more time. But Jon went in there and just completely outclassed him. I don't even wanna emphasize how much I appreciated Jon Jones's fight IQ in that fight. I mean, Jon was very measured. He was very aware of Stipe's boxing and kept Stipe at a very, very, very good distance the entire fight. Literally kept Stipe at kicking distance. And that's the distance where Jon does one of his best jobs. And then the wrestling. How many times have you seen any fighter manhandle Stipe Miocic like that, on the feet and on the ground? He outboxed Stipe. Jon's jab was literally an atomic bomb the entire night, right? He outgrappled Stipe, delivered one of the best heavyweight ground and pound sessions I've ever seen. Let's not even talk about the dynamism of the tools that Jon displayed that day. In that fight, listen, guys, listen. I do give Jon Jones a lot of shit on this channel, but sometimes I also appreciate some of the good things that he's done, right? For instance, I appreciate I had a video up about Jon and his family and how he bought a house for his family sometime earlier in the year. So I try to make it as balanced as possible. And I give to Caesar what is due to Caesar. Jon Jones deserves all the accolades today. we cannot deny the greatness. And if there's one thing he did in this fight, is completely vindicated Uncle Dana. Dana has been glazing, I mean glazing, Jon Jones for over a year. And Jon just literally validated it. Did you see the smile on Dana's face? Did you see how happy Dana was after the fight? And it's not just the fact that Jon went in there, dominated Stipe, completely outclassed him, but then it's the way he finished Stipe. A spinning back kick to the rib cage. Spinning back kick to the rib cage, and Stipe went down. Like those leg kicks to the body, they were on the money the whole time. And I mean, literally broke him down. Then to finish the greatest heavyweight fighter in the UFC in that way, who's gonna deny Jon the GOAT status now? Who's gonna deny Jon the pound for pound status now? Nobody, not even me, right? I'm always gonna fall back, and unfortunately, it's just the facts. I'm not hating on Jon Jones, but I'm always gonna fall back on the fact that Jon, that whole drug and picogram thing, right? We're always gonna fall back on that. But like I've said in the past, while that might have been a performance-enhancing attribute, we cannot deny that picograms or PEDs or whatever do not, and I mean do not, affect a fighter's or improve a fighter's fight IQ. It's just not gonna happen. And what Jon demonstrated in this fight is a superior MMA fight IQ. It wasn't a strength fest, it wasn't a skill fest, even though that was on full display, but literally how he thinks in the octagon was really what was on display. How he's able to go in there, read an opponent, prior to the match, maybe even studied an opponent during his camp, you know, get all that data and implement a game plan to execute in the octagon to get himself a victory. That is what Jon Jones literally displayed in that fight. Amazing shit. The moment he got Stipe down the first time and started with the ground and pound and controlling Stipe, I was like, now granted, I was mind blown. I really shouldn't be, right? I really shouldn't be, because Jon's body of work speaks for itself. The only thing, I think, the thing that made me gobsmacked is this. Guys, have you asked yourself how many times Jon Jones has fought in the last 5 years? Exactly. How many times has Jon Jones fought in the last 5 years, then to come back post-injury, post-surgery, retraining, after this length of time, and to do that to Stipe? Listen, I don't want anybody to tell me a story about, oh, Stipe hasn't fought in the... No. Stipe is a fireman. It's an active fireman, right? So even when he's not fighting in the octagon, Stipe still stays in shape just by virtue of his job, his day job. He has no choice but to stay in shape. If you think since Stipe lost to Francis, he's never stepped in the gym, you're not being real with yourself. Because he's been sparring, he's been training, he's been keeping fit as an active fighter and as a fireman. I don't want to hear any story about that. Let us not take away from John Jones's brilliance and performance on this night by saying Stipe didn't come in there with being his best self. And then to also do that in front of the UFC's favorite president, Donald J. Trump. Oh, some people are about to get triggered. Okay, so for John Jones to do that in front of everybody on Trump's team. Trump was there, Kid Rock was there, Vivek Ramaswamy was there, Tulsi Gabbard was there, all the Trump kids, Eric and Don Jr. were there. What's his name? Tulsi Gabbard? Did I say Tulsi Gabbard? Listen, the entire squad was there. Elon Musk. Oh man, that was such amazing performance, sir. Amazing performance. Now you gotta be wondering what Tom Aspinall is thinking though. John Jones versus Tom Aspinall will be, it's official. That's the fight to make. That's the fight to make, whether we like it or not. However, I am very comfortable after a performance like that, if John decides to fight Alex Pereira for his legacy, hey, listen guys, I am comfortable. I'm comfortable. And if in the past, I may not have agreed with that, I'm agreeing with it now. Just because John literally put himself in a position where he really has options now. I mean, the ideal thing we all know is to unify the undisputed heavyweight belt with the interim belt. We know that. That's not even in question. That's not something I'm not advocating for. But I also appreciate the fact that the dude has put himself in a position where he can make certain demands. He can. John can make demands of the UFC right now, and the UFC is going to do it. And whatever path he decides to go on, fight-wise, it's going to make them a lot of money because people want to see John Jones fight now. In fact, I don't even think I feel like John Jones makes better numbers now than he did earlier in his career. I might be wrong. Listen, I don't have the stats for that. But doesn't it feel that way? Doesn't it feel like now, when John Jones is fighting, we're more interested in watching? Because that's just where he's found himself. Strategically, by the way, he didn't just magically appear there. He put in the work and put himself in that position. And I'm very happy for him. But that Tom Aspinall fight has to happen. It has to happen. Tom has expressed that he still thinks he can beat John Jones. And of course, with all he's done so far in the heavyweight division, being where he's at physically, right? I can understand the confidence being very, very high. And I can also understand Tom being a problem for John Jones. But listen, John doesn't even really do fancy work anymore. Like his boxing he doesn't need to do the fancy stuff. I didn't see a lot of the spinning back elbows or anything too dynamic, right? In his offerings in terms of the striking. The trip he did with Stipe didn't see that coming. The takedowns, effective. The ground and pound and the fact that he was able to get those elbows in there and then busted up Stipe's eye in the end of the first round. All that was on display. But the fact that he utilized the most basic techniques to get Stipe out of there in that manner, it just makes you wonder, like, it's very possible for John Jones to be able to neutralize Tom Aspinall's dynamism as well. It's possible. That's not a far-fetched statement. Most of us know that it could be done. You know? It's very interesting. Like, it will be so good to see that fight. So good. I don't know if Alex Pereira is, has anything to say about that. I'm sure if Alex sees John Jones's fight IQ in terms of how he was able to take Stipe down, which we all know takedowns and wrestling and grappling is a kickboxer's worst nightmare. But also standing on the feet. Can Alex really do it? Because John can read people. John can neutralize people. That's his natural talent. Right? What are we going to do about it? Listen, if he wants to take a break, no problem, he should take a break, but I really appreciate the fact that there has to be a timeline on that, because there is an interim champion at the heavyweight division, and there's a heavyweight champion. It's two things are going to happen. It's either vacate or fight, right? However long John wants to do this is fine. If he wants to come back next summer, which I think it might be next summer, because Aspinall can't just stay there and hold that belt for that long, just, continuously. Oh man, I have no regrets watching that. I have no regrets watching that fight and that entire card. It was delicious. Thank you, Uncle Dane. I really, really appreciate it. Now on to transition into what I do have regrets watching. Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. First off, let me start by saying this. I never expected that fight to be anything outside of really what it turned out to be. I had a video the last time Jake Paul fought Mike Perry. I did a video saying, or asking the question, was Mike Perry paid? To take the L on that loss. And sadly, I have to ask the exact same question with this Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight. Right? I mean, I respect the business aspect of it, because like I said earlier in my intro, Jake Paul knows how to play the world. Jake Paul knows how to entertain. Jake Paul knows how to talk and market. He's a very good promoter. And Jake Paul knows how to finesse y'all out of your dollars. Granted, it was on Netflix, but we all tuned in. We tuned in to see the circus, right? And with Tyson's performance in that match, he's 58. Listen, he's 58 going against a 27-year-old. But Mike Tyson is not an ordinary 58-year-old. I'm sorry. You cannot talk to me about the age or father type. Mike Tyson is not your regular 58-year-old. Did you see how jacked he was? Did you all see? Right? I ain't 58, though. I can't move like Mike Tyson. I mean, that dude has been fighting since he was 12. 12, guys. He's never really stopped fighting. He's never stopped training. He's always been in shape. Mike has been in shape for over 40 years. So, tell me how he looks extremely fantastic hitting mitts prior to the fight for so many weeks, then goes into the fight looking like, what the hell is this? Like, what is that Mike Tyson? Is that a clone? What is this? Who is this? And why is he moving this way? And I'm talking from the start of the fight. And what's with the biting of the gloves? What is this animalistic behavior? I'm like, I was watching it, I'm like, what the hell is this? What am I looking at? Isn't that crazy? Who else felt that way? It couldn't have been just me, right? I could not have been the only one who felt that way watching that fight. And then you start to hear rumors floating around, oh well, it's in the contract. Of course, we'll never know the full details, but we hear rumors that it's in the contract that Mike won't get paid a certain amount of money if he knocks out Jake Paul. right? And did you guys see the stats? Did you see the stats? In fact, the stats is what completely blew my mind, right? I believe Mike threw about 90-something punches. Mike Tyson, I don't care if he's 70. Mike Tyson can definitely throw more than 90 punches, right? In 16 minutes. I don't care if Mike Tyson is 70. So you want to tell me that Mike Tyson didn't throw up to 100 punches or something like that and landed 19 or 18? And then you tell me, that those on the internet saying, oh well, hitting mitts is different from hitting an entire man. Yeah, but guess what? Mike Tyson has dropped a lot of people who are way more skilled than Jake Paul. Right? And he didn't have to throw as many punches. You know what they say? Power is the last thing to go when you hit Father Time. So Mike Tyson is still strong enough to knock out Jake Paul. You mean to tell me that out of the 18 or 19 punches that did land, not one knocked out Jake Paul? You're telling me that? You're trying to tell me that it takes Mike Tyson more than 10 punches to actually land to knock out a Jake Paul, who's been boxing for what, 4 years? Yeah, I am not buying that shit. I am not buying it. But we're rolling with the punches. I did not pay any money to see that fight, so I'm not going to complain. I just complain about my time. I could have been using that time to do other stuff. I could have been using that time to watch, MMA news and know what I'm going to react to. I could have been using that time to sleep. I could have slept. Could have used that time to have sex. I could have used that time to eat food, cook. I could have used the time for gardening. I could have been gardening or rock painting, right? Literally, I could have used my time for anything more productive. Listen, guys, all right. That's how bad I feel about wasting my time. I could have used my time to watch a dry wall, a paint wall get dry. I could have used my time to do that. That would have been a more productive use of my time, even though I don't pay the money. Because sometimes when you do pay the money and your time is wasted, you feel like shit. That's like going to a really good restaurant, eat a terrible meal, the food is shit, and then you have to actually pay for it. It's like going to see a movie, right? You pay, you go in, and that movie is crap. Like Joker 2 and Roadhouse, both crap, right? And then you have to pay money for it. It's very annoying. It's really, really annoying. But again, as a businessman, I respect and appreciate the entire process of the business and commercial aspects of the fight. To get that on Netflix, right? To put those kind of numbers on Netflix, because I believe Netflix is just about to get into the realm of live sporting events, which it could work. Imagine if Netflix handled the UFC events. I mean, listen, something to work out, and Jake Paul just proved that a formula can bring in big numbers, right? It's not about the boxing. That's just a gimmick fight. I'm sorry, I'm not buying it. I'm not trying to shit on Jake Paul again. I don't appreciate the boxing, but I definitely appreciate the marketing and the commercial aspects of this whole circus. The circus that is Jake Paul's boxing career. I appreciate the marketing and commercial aspects of it, because I'm gonna give props to who props is due. And if Jake Paul can finesse y'all, not out of your money really per se, finesse y'all out of your time, me included, I can't knock his hustle. I cannot knock Jake Paul's hustle. Good one, Jake. Good one. Good one. Good one. Will I see will I watch a future Jake Paul fight? Depends on who he's, putting in front of him. He mentioned or called out or has been calling out Canelo Alvarez. Canelo's like, yeah, not at all. Canelo is not even at the point where he's interested in giving Jake Paul the time of day or the attention that Jake Paul is seeking. It's just not. Because at his heart, Canelo Alvarez is a purist. He understands the sweet science. And I think he wants to keep it that way. That's what motivates him. He's not in the Floyd Mayweather stage of his career or the Mike Tyson stage of his career where he can take gimmick fights just to take gimmick fights and make some money. He has money. I think Canelo is still driven by a pure sense of competition in the sports of boxing. And that's okay. So, again, whether or not I'm going to watch a future Jake Paul fight depends on who he really puts in front of him. I'm really not bothered. I've accepted Jake Paul fights as gimmick fights. To me, Jake Paul fights are like pro wrestling fights. It's the WWE of boxing. If you think otherwise, hey, you are entitled to your opinion, and I will not disagree with you. We can agree to disagree on this one, but I believe a majority of us who watch these fights, even from a casual perspective, we know this shit ain't real. Come on now, it's not real. It's not real. I'm not interested in being convinced otherwise. It's just not, it's not real. It's not real. Fuck it. It's just not real. Okay? All right, guys. Oh, man, it feels good to be back. I'm going to watch the news, see what happens in our space, and I'm going to react to them later in the week. Mr. TDC appreciates you guys for being here. Thank you for listening to all these rambles. I really love and appreciate you guys. Please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification buttons for the new videos, and engage in the comment sections. Look out for quick clips later in the week. TDC out. Peace.